Hello, history buffs, time travelers, and scholars. The Wild West was packed with tough folks who could outshoot, outdrink, and outlast just about anyone, except when it came to their own strange ends. Some went out in blazing gunfights, while others met their fate in ways that'll make you chuckle. So grab your hat and hold on tight as we uncover how these legendary cowboys and outlaws really kicked the bucket. Belle Starr, the Bandit Queen's mysterious end. Belle Starr, often called the Bandit Queen, lived a life straight out of a Wild West dime novel. But her story is less about pulling off daring heists and more about her knack for surrounding herself with the wrong crowd. Born Myra Maybelle Shirley in 1848, she grew up in Missouri during the Civil War, where chaos and crime were practically part of the scenery. By the time she was an adult, Belle had become well acquainted with some of the West's most infamous outlaws, including the Jesse James Gang. Belle's own criminal record wasn't exactly awe-inspiring. She was once convicted of horse theft, a crime that earned her 9 months in jail. After serving her sentence, she seemed to avoid getting her hands dirty, at least officially. Despite this, her choice of companions kept her close to trouble. She married twice, and both of her husbands were heavily involved in criminal activities. Tragically, both men met their end in violent shootouts, leaving Belle to navigate life alone in a world of bandits and gunslingers. Her death was as mysterious as her life was adventurous. On February 3rd, 1889, while riding home to her ranch in Oklahoma, Belle was ambushed. 2 gunshots hit her in the back, killing her instantly. Who killed her? That's a question historians are still trying to answer. Some theories suggest a neighbor or a rival over a land dispute. Others point fingers at her son, Ed Reed, due to rumors of family drama. Belle Starr's death was shrouded in secrecy, with whispers of betrayal adding to the mystique. Whether it was revenge, greed, or simply bad luck, her end marked the conclusion of a life spent walking the fine line between the law and lawlessness. Today, she's remembered as a legend of the Wild West, a woman who lived and died with an air of mystery. Billy the Kid, the young outlaw who lived fast and died young. Billy the Kid is one of the Wild West's most famous and infamous figures. Born Henry McCarty in 1859, he didn't stick with his birth name for long, going by aliases like William Bonney. By the time he was in his late teens, he had already carved out a reputation as a dangerous outlaw. Known for his charm and quick draw, Billy became a legend for both his crimes and his ability to escape from nearly any situation. Billy's outlaw career kicked off in the rough-and-tumble environment of New Mexico during the Lincoln County War, a feud between rival factions fighting for control of the area's resources. It was during this time that Billy started racking up his infamous body count, which some say reached as high as 21 men, one for each year of his short life. However, historians argue the number was likely closer to 9. Still, for a young man barely out of his teens, his criminal resume was impressive, or terrifying, depending on your perspective. In 1880, Sheriff Pat Garrett, a lawman determined to clean up the West, captured Billy after a relentless manhunt. Sentenced to hang for the murder of a sheriff, Billy managed to escape jail in a daring breakout that left 2 guards dead. His knack for slipping away from the clutches of justice earned him an almost mythical status, but Billy's luck ran out in July 1881. After months of pursuit, Garrett tracked him down to Fort Sumner, New Mexico. The sheriff hid in the shadows of a dark bedroom, waiting for Billy to walk in. When he did, Garrett fired a single shot, killing the young outlaw on the spot. Even in death, Billy's story didn't lose its mystique. Some claimed Garrett killed the wrong man, and tales of Billy living on under a new identity persisted for decades. Whether fact or folklore, Billy the Kid's short life left a long-lasting mark on the Wild West, making him a symbol of rebellion and the untamed spirit of the frontier. Buffalo Bill Cody, the showman who never stopped entertaining. Buffalo Bill. Cody wasn't your typical Wild West outlaw. He was the larger-than-life figure who turned the Wild West into a worldwide sensation. Born in 1846, Cody earned his nickname as a buffalo hunter, supplying meat to railroad workers. But his real fame came from his incredible showmanship. His traveling act, Buffalo Bill's Wild West, blended drama, history, and action, making him an international celebrity by the late 1800s. However, Cody's life wasn't just about thrilling audiences. It was a mix of adventure, patriotism, and a knack for storytelling. Through his show, he showcased sharpshooters, Native American performers, and even staged reenactments of famous battles. His larger-than-life persona helped romanticize the Wild West for generations. When Cody passed away on January 10, 1917, the cause of death was kidney failure. He was visiting his sister in Denver at the time. In his will, Cody requested to be buried at Lookout Mountain in Colorado, a scenic location offering panoramic views, a final nod to his love of the wild frontier. But his burial wasn't as straightforward as his will might have suggested. A heavy winter snow made it impossible to carry his body up the mountain. To honor his wishes, the funeral home, embalmed his body multiple times, and kept it in cold storage for 6 months until the snow cleared. Meanwhile, debates erupted over his final resting place. Some argued he should be buried in Cody, Wyoming, a town he founded, as earlier wills had indicated. Conspiracy theories even emerged suggesting his body might have been secretly moved there. Adding to the intrigue, the Denver mortuary, where Buffalo Bill's body was preserved, has since transformed into a restaurant called Linger. Diners now eat where his remains were once kept, a quirky and somewhat eerie twist to the showman's enduring legacy. Bat Masterson. From lawman to writer in The Big Apple, Bat Masterson wasn't just a gunfighter. He was a man of reinvention. Born in 1853, he lived the quintessential Wild West life, full of adventure and danger. Masterson first made his mark as a buffalo hunter, then as a gunfighter before taking up the badge. His transition into law enforcement came after an encounter with Wyatt Earp, who saw Masterson's potential to bring order to Dodge City, Kansas, a lawless frontier town at the time. With his brothers already working in law enforcement nearby, Bat's decision to step up felt almost destined. By the age of 49, Masterson had grown weary of the chaos that defined life on the frontier. Seeking peace, he moved east with his wife to New York City. In a surprising twist, the former lawman became a newspaper columnist and even served as a U.S. Marshal for a few years. Writing for the New York Morning Telegraph, Masterson chronicled stories of his Wild West days and reflected on a rapidly changing America. Masterson's final moments were as unassuming as his earlier life had been action-packed. On October 25, 1921, he passed away at the age of 67 from a heart attack while working at his desk. It was a quiet end to a life that had been anything but. From the dusty streets of Dodge City to the bustling avenues of New York, Bat Masterson embodied the spirit of transformation, proving that even a Wild West gunfighter could find peace in the modern world. Jesse James. The infamous outlaw. Jesse James was one of the most well-known outlaws of the Wild West. Born in 1847 in Missouri, Jesse grew up during the Civil War, which greatly influenced his life. As a teenager, he joined a group of Confederate guerrillas known as bushwhackers, who fought using brutal hit-and-run tactics. This violent upbringing shaped Jesse's future as a criminal. After the war ended, Jesse and his older brother Frank turned to a life of crime. They formed the James Younger Gang and became famous for robbing banks, trains, and stagecoaches. Jesse had a reputation for being clever and daring, and some people even saw him as a kind of Robin Hood figure, though there is little evidence he shared his stolen wealth. Jesse's gang committed many robberies across the Midwest, but their actions also led to bloodshed and fear. Over time, law enforcement, bounty hunters, and even his own former gang members began to close in on him. In 1882, Jesse was living in St. Joseph, Missouri under the name Thomas Howard. He had grown more paranoid, fearing betrayal from those close to him. This fear turned out to be justified when one of his gang members, Robert Ford, decided to betray him for a reward. On April 3, 1882, while Jesse stood on a chair to dust a picture frame in his home, Ford shot him in the back of the head, killing him instantly. Jesse was only 34 years old. His death marked the end of an era, but also immortalized him as a Wild West legend. Today, stories of Jesse James mix fact and myth, making him one of the history's most fascinating outlaws. Butch Cassidy, the charming outlaw. Butch Cassidy, born Robert Leroy Parker in 1866 in Utah, became one of the Wild West's most famous outlaws. Growing up in a poor Mormon family, he developed a knack for hard work, but also a taste for adventure. As a young man, Butch worked on ranches and learned to ride and shoot, skills that would later serve him well. His first brush with crime came when he stole a pair of jeans and some pie, but his criminal career quickly escalated. Adopting the name Butch Cassidy, he formed the Wild Bunch, a notorious gang known for their daring robberies of banks, trains, and mining companies. Unlike many outlaws, Butch was known for his charm and wit. He often avoided violence, preferring clever tactics to get what he wanted. In 1901, Butch and his close friend Harry Longabaugh, known as the Sundance Kid, fled to South America with Sundance's girlfriend Etta Place. They tried to live a quieter life, even attempting ranching in Argentina. However, they couldn't resist the lure of crime and resumed robbing banks and trains. Butch Cassidy's life came to a mysterious end in 1908 in Bolivia. After a botched robbery, Bolivian soldiers surrounded him in Sundance. In the ensuing shootout, it's believed they both died. However, rumors persisted that Butch survived and returned to the U.S. under a new identity. Today, Butch Cassidy is remembered not only for his crimes, but for his cleverness, charm, and the mysteries surrounding his final days. The Dalton Gang, Wild West Outlaws. The Dalton Gang was one of the most infamous groups of outlaws during the Wild West era. It was led by the Dalton brothers, Grat, Bob, and Emmett, who came from a family of lawmen in Kansas. Despite their family background, the Daltons chose a life of crime and became known for their daring robberies. The gang started out in the 1890s, and became notorious for robbing trains, banks, and stagecoaches across several western states. They were skilled in planning and execution, often striking quickly and escaping before lawmen could catch up. But what made the Daltons different from other outlaws was their boldness and ambition. They planned some of the most audacious robberies of their time. One of the most famous and ultimately disastrous heists occurred on October 5th, 1892. The Dalton gang attempted to rob two banks at the same time in Coffeyville, Kansas. They were confident they could pull off the robbery, but things went horribly wrong. The townspeople, alerted to the robbery, fought back and a gun battle broke out. Grat and Bob Dalton were killed in the gunfight, and Emmett Dalton, severely wounded, was captured. Emmett Dalton survived the shootout, but his life as an outlaw was over. He was tried and sentenced to life in prison, though he was later released after serving 14 years. After his release, he wrote a book about his life as an outlaw. The Dalton gang's downfall marked the end of an era for wild Western outlaws. Their bold attempt at robbing two banks at once became a symbol of their reckless ambition, and the gang's story remains a part of Wild West folklore. The Dalton gang's daring exploits and dramatic downfall left a lasting mark on Wild West history. Their story is a reminder of the fine line between bold ambition and fatal recklessness. Subscribe for more Wild West tales.